So imagine this. William Afton has returned. You have been reading about two children possessing one animatronic. One of them is filled with anger and has been accidentally killing people all across town, and the other is trying to free them from their body and put everything back to normal. But he suspects that something else is pulling the strings, something that is all but confirmed when his desperate attempt to free them is revealed to be exactly what the evil soul inside of them needed to escape. William is now a massive amalgam of haunted parts. The animatronic is down, and the only one who can stop them is a detective with something to prove, and he's laying half dead in a ditch. Coming down to this massive rabid amalgam, there's a lake, the puppet has appeared, it's the time for the finale. This is the moment that we've been waiting for. And then in one tiny section, Afton dies, one of the kids just disappears, and this random character from a past story is not only revealed to be the main villain, but they retroactively state that most of the past villains were really just her in disguise. Yes, Eleanor is pretty stupid. So, who is Eleanor? Well, that depends on where you start. And since we're starting from the beginning, we should go to the second story of the first Fazbear's Fright book. A story called To Be Beautiful. But before we do that, let's talk about Eleanor's main gimmick. Her shtick just happens to be one of the most broken plot elements in the Fnaf books. The illusion discs. Illusion discs are little plot hole covers. Whenever something doesn't make sense, you just use this to effectively rewrite whatever happened, even if it's nonsensical. Though, in comparison to the trilogy they were introduced in, they have become a lot more bafflingly overpowered and nonsensical. How the illusion discs work is that they make someone see whatever they want. They supposedly affect the brain through sound, but they can both make everyone have the same hallucination or supposedly make people have different hallucinations. They are supposed to make you see what you think you're going to see, but they also can implant hallucinations of their own depending on the immediate need. They can make robots look like people. In the case of Eleanor, she can at will spontaneously transform herself into anyone she so much as glances at, because she has this necklace that has this illusion disc magic. With these, you can effectively just change anything and say it was an illusion. That effectively breaks any tension in the books. Why become invested in any story when you know that any character might just suddenly become William Afton? And it was me the whole time. Okay, that doesn't really sound like Afton, but then again, neither does this. It's not spooky because it's never built up. It just happens. It just happens. The illusion discs were already unbelievable in the Twisted ones, but they are much worse here. Not only can they create illusions, but they pretty much give superpowers. A hunk of scrap who wears the illusion disc will fit seamlessly with the illusion, not falling apart until it's removed. It's made of remnants, so it can also heal the injured and bring back the dead. Or close enough to the dead. And here's where we get to Be Beautiful. A teenage girl finds Eleanor at the dump and somehow is able to fix her up. Eleanor says, in return, she will grant her wish. The girl, Sarah, wishes to be beautiful. So Eleanor gives her a magic remnant necklace. I think it's a different one, but I can't remember if it's the same one or not. And then sings to her every night. Sarah becomes beautiful. Until one day when the necklace falls off and she realizes her body parts were replaced with scrap metal. She runs home and Eleanor uses the necklace to turn into a duplicate of Sarah and runs off into the woods. It's an okay story if you try not to think so hard, like about how the necklace is so powerful that it not only projected the illusion of Sarah being human, but kept the worthless scrap metal from falling apart too. Ain't that neat? Even here, Eleanor's not a great villain. You can see the cracks just in her MO. She steals Sarah's body parts and does what with them? Nothing. She doesn't switch out their parts and use her body parts to disguise herself. She just uses her magic pendant to become her and runs off. Later on, it's established that Eleanor just did this because she's a bad, evil person and she likes making people suffer. But that's just a really boring reason to do something. and a bad excuse to not have a villain do anything actually scary. Just like a badly written character who is good at a lot of stuff just because, having someone just doing stuff for no reason shows how much of a plot device, how much of like a character trope they are. And I would also like to interject here because I was thinking about it. When I say having a villain have a reason to do something, I don't mean like a tragic backstory. I don't mean villains don't always have to have tragic backstories. I just like them to have something more than I'm bad because I'm bad. I'm fine with I'm bad because I like it, but even Eleanor doesn't even show that much pizzazz. Not to mention, what a waste of potential. Do you realize how creepy it would have been if you at least implied Eleanor was wearing the skin like in Sister Location? And with the magic remnant, Sarah's flesh should have stayed pristine and intact as long as she wears the necklace, right? So why not go that route? Well, whatever, it's not getting any better from here. By the way, there's no reason for her to look like Baby. This seems like the best place to bring it up, but she has pretty much no connection to Baby. In one of the epilogues, I think the one where everything goes bad, where the villain who was built up, who's Afton, is abruptly shafted. Eleanor Eleanor's sliding around like the Grinch all over the goddamn steals bad karma off the stitch raft, and Afton gives her this longing, desirable look before falling into a lake and dying. I mean, is it because she is his creation? Because they never say that. Well, I don't know. But it seems like a seriously out of character moment for Afton, who is notorious for having cared for nobody but himself. He doesn't even like his children, and frequently uses them to his own devices. I guess she's just so evil that even the villain himself has a weakness for her. So what's with the name Eleanor? Is it even connected to Elizabeth? Or Elle? Who is the little doll that was featured in, the Silver Eyes trilogy in one of these books? No, it's actually the name of some scientist's daughter backwards, Renelle. Except no, it's not spelled the same. And no, the scientist didn't create her. He created just the necklace to heal his sick daughter, and then she got better, and then she ran off, and because he was aggro because his wife died. So what is Eleanor? Well, brace yourself. Eleanor is a creature made out of pure agony, who wants more agony and remnant so that she can become super powerful and use her evil powers to cause suffering and pain. She's beyond the devil. She's more than a demon. Bad, and she loves suffering and agony, and she wants everyone to suffer and hurt because she's evil and evil. So yeah, she's actually pretty lame in that regard too. And do you remember how I mentioned Eleanor can become anyone? And do you know how I mentioned that up until that point, Eleanor only appeared in a single story? Well, to make sure the readers knew how super evil and cunning Eleanor really is, they suddenly reveal in one of the final epilogues that some of the animatronics in the other stories were not themselves, but Eleanor in disguise. There's a story where Foxy seemingly curses a teenager who's been mean to his younger brother, and he ends up dying in an accident where he loses his eye and his arm, and I think which plays back into Foxy's curse. Except no, it's not Foxy. It's actually Eleanor who snuck into the hospital and killed him. She might have even been Foxy too. Then there's like this lady who's being haunted by Ella, the creepy doll alarm clock that keeps popping up outside of her window, and she keeps waking up at 1:35 every night. Except no, it's not this doll. It's Eleanor, who's been hanging outside her window every night and following her all around town. And just happens to drive her so insane that she crawls into a hole and dies, which is actually extremely lucky for Eleanor, because I don't know if everyone would have reacted to this little tiny alarm clock dolly out their window with as much insanity as this lone woman. So, and it also doesn't fit with the Eleanor that was portrayed in To Be Beautiful. In To Be Beautiful, we don't know Eleanor's motives, but we see her MO, and that is that she basically tricks someone, gets rid of them, and then replaces them entirely, which makes sense. So that's the same thing, right? She replaces. No, it's not the same thing. She doesn't replace these people. She just walks around and takes the place of animatronics, apparently, and then just goofs on people, hopefully until they die. Eleanor has entirely changed her plans to do random acts of evil. Or more likely, they realized that they needed more to show how truly vile and evil Eleanor is, so they shoehorned her into scenes where she didn't belong. Because, like, well, she's the successor to William Afton. She has to be bigger. And if you've seen any of my videos on William Afton, you know how I feel about William Afton. I think he was at his prime as a villain initially, and then when they started adding all the stuff, like him being a mad scientist, and him going in and out of Springtrap, and him being like 5 other rabbits, and what happened in Security Breach, I think that all got really silly and goofy, and I think that was a mistake. So I don't have high feelings towards William Afton, but I'm fine with a villain taking over for him. But this didn't turn out right. I'm sure you can see what the problem is here. Eleanor is so underbaked that to make her a threat, they must retroactively give her responsibility for things that she didn't do. Neither of these schemes match her MO. Imagine if there was a scene in Security Breach where it was revealed that all the animatronics have been in the basement the entire time, and like Chica, Roxy, Monty, even the sun and the moon, it's just been Vanny the entire time using an illusion disc to make herself look and sound like all of them and chasing Gregory around. That would sound like nonsense. And it reads like it too. That's downright laughable. That would be totally confusing. And not only that, but that would be one of those twists that you would look back at it and you would be like, yeah, what's the point of this? Okay. But that's fine. She is some sort of creature beyond animatronic or human, and she wants to collect the remnant in agony to become unstoppable. So how does she go about this? Well, eventually she decides to go to the source of all remnant in agony. Well, no, she actually wants to see this scientist guy I mentioned earlier. Not the guy the Stitch Wreath came from, but another guy with a slightly different name. But to do that, she needs Jake, one of the kids in the robot who is now alone in it, just kind of floating around. Except, no, she doesn't. Not when she just changes at will. Well, she gets to the scientist and pretends to get injured so he'll inject the remnant into her, thinking she's his daughter, because he thinks that's a good idea. Yeah, because that's a great idea, injecting liquid metals directly into a human being. Forget what the fourth closet said about that. You inject that into the wrong place and you're going to end up dead. He thinks it's a good idea to shoot up his unconscious daughter, and that's enough remnant to make her go hypernova. But then the detective comes in and he fights her in this like a Fazbear Frights Rewind special in their minds and traps her into a bad memory. Yes, because memories are tangible places and objects that you can trap one into, like a pocket dimension or hammer space. This is a point that I actually feel like this one should be brought up too, because basically the series ends with all the souls of the suffering deceased children not moving on, but getting stuck in memories. That kind of seems like a weird decision to make. I always go on about how there should be more villains, but you shafted William Afton and an angry child just to get to this point. I think maybe you should take a step back and breathe. Of course, we all know how this whole mess actually happened. When you're reading it, you can actually see when the epilogue suddenly had to get stretched. So I'm guessing Scholastic ordered a whole extra section of books, and instead of making it work, they kind of threw out what they had and went with this. I'd like to say this is where it stopped, but no. By the Tales of the Pizzaplex, the next batch of Fazbear Frights books, the first story is literally about a robot girl who is using a magic remnant pendant necklace to heal people and go to high school. Because remnant is such a powerful thing that if it touches a dying person, they spontaneously come back to full health. Why is alchemy a thing in a horror series about animatronics? And why are so many names recycled? This is the third Jessica in the book series. Stop this. You can find more names. Okay, so final thoughts. What would I have changed? Make Eleanor her own thing. Don't make her look like Baby. Don't have her give her Baby's name. Don't give a convoluted backstory around everything except her. If you don't want to explain where she comes from, that's fine. But we don't need to know the sob story about how this illusion necklace was created. Get rid of the illusion necklace. It's kind of stupid. Unless you're willing to do something really legitimately creepy with it and not just use it to break the laws of physics. Stop making Remnant bring people back to life, because that is a super tension killer. Stop doing the fourth closet. Come on. The fourth closet wasn't even scary. The scariest thing about the fourth closet was the graphic novel, because we almost got a glimpse of William Afton with his shirt off. I think it should be noted that a villain's true merit isn't necessarily what they do. It's how they impact you, kind of, because there's so many villains out there who do so many vile levels of evil things, but it's gotta be something a little better than that. The puppet appears for 2 minutes and then drowns in a lake. I digress.